Craig, thank you so much for jumping on the AIM podcast.
You're welcome, man. I'm blessed to be able to be on here and share my story. So thanks for having me on.
I'm super pumped. We didn't see each other. It hadn't been too long, man. You guys were just down in Atlanta for the Cueva event, man. That was an incredible event.
That was epic, man. Epic experience. Especially me, don't know a lot about football. Didn't grow up with the culture of football. And to see some of these athletes, especially in like a little indoor field, and just the way they move and how athletic they are, it was awesome experience.
No doubt. And Legends did a really good job with it. I thought, and you can even share or talk on it. Like, you guys have been able to work with some really cool companies. I think Legends, even beyond just the product, the quality of the product, like I've obviously with TLF, but just what Legends stands for, I think is really, really cool, and kind of what they embody as a brand.
Absolutely. Just the word Legends, they fit the persona of that so well. And I love their stuff on top of that, and the people they've brought in, and even the staff, very authentic, good people, genuine intentions, and love working with them. So I think it was awesome alignment especially for Zion. He represents what a legend is.
100%. You're a legend yourself, bro. And it's cool to see y'all's dynamic and all the things you're accomplishing together as a team and individually and all of that. So it's really cool, man. I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah, no, excited to be on. And as you said, we have a unique dynamic in how we operate, where I'm not like an old school manager that's sitting in the corner. Like, I'm very hands-on with my relationship with everything we do.
100%. And just for, the context here, I do want you to share some of your story as we dive into this. And obviously you kind of touched on it, your relationship with Zion Clark being in a managerial role, but also I know you train him as well. You do a lot more. And so I'll let you kind of touch on that. But I think the big topic that I would love to hit on today is just like how to serve others and help them achieve their goals while understanding what gifts you personally possess and how can you leverage them to make the most of your life and make the biggest impact. And I think that's when I look at you and I see someone that is just an amazing person that's putting others before themselves sometimes and just using your skills to make this world a better place. And so again, with all that being said, I'd love to kind of hear your story of kind of how you got to where you are now and maybe some of the things that, in your background that have put you in this position.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I'll give a little bit of background on me. Originally from South Africa, that's where I was born and spent my childhood. At a fairly young age, like 9 years old, my family decided to migrate to New Zealand. South Africa is a very dangerous place, not a place you want to raise children. So my parents took the decision in migrating to New Zealand, left a life they knew behind, and, didn't know anyone in New Zealand, but they wanted to create a bright future for me and my brothers. And, ended up being raised in New Zealand, very safe place. So we went from, one of the most dangerous places in the world to a place where cops don't carry guns. And it's like,
wow,
two very extremes. I mean, we have more sheep than people, 28 million sheep, 4 million people. Put that in context for you. So, I look back and I'm like, man, I'm so fortunate for good parents that, sacrifice and put their children before anything. It was like, look, we want to raise children in a safe environment that they can play outdoors, they can, thrive and do what they want to do in life. And, so that's kind of where my story carried to, and ended up being an athlete my whole life. Started off playing soccer and rugby, and that transition to sorry, I'm just going to move my dog real quick. Sorry.
You have an amazing dog, by the way. I love seeing your dog content.
He's awesome, man. He smells super loud. But so I ended up moving to New Zealand, and always being a good athlete, and rugby and soccer is where it all started, and then transitioned and found a love for basketball. Actually, a high school basketball coach saw me playing rugby and was like, man, you're an exceptional athlete, come play basketball. So first ever dunked a basketball at 13 years old. I was maybe 5'7", 5'8", and realized I had like a natural athletic gift for it, and fell in love with the sport. Realized I had some talent with it. Learned a lot through that, and that actually earned me a scholarship to move to the US and play at the college level, which, as a foreign kid, you have this vision of college life in the US, and what sport is in the US, especially a sport like basketball that's loved by so many people here. And it's a big dream for any foreign kid that plays basketball, is to play at the college level in the US, which is the mecca of it. So, work my ass off and save money. Don't come from a family of money. So it's like, my parents are like, hey, we love you, but whatever you can make happen, by all means, pursue your goals. But we're not in a position to financially support that endeavor. So that instilled something in me. It was like, you know what, if I'm going to make this happen, it falls on me. And ended up first starting at the junior college level and at a school in San Diego, and had a slower start to my career. Especially, everyone's athletic in the US, so it was like I was a freak athlete, over in New Zealand, and then you come here and like pretty much everyone on the court is fairly athletic to a degree. So learned a lot through my first couple of years in JUCO, and really worked my ass off, and realized nothing was ever handed to me in life. And I think that instilled a lot of work ethic in me, and was like, you know what, if I'm going to make my dreams come to life, it falls on me. It's my work ethic. It's, and I love the accountability of realizing that I'm in control of my future and my destiny and whatever happens. So I almost look at it as like a blessing that I wasn't raised with financial success or a family with a bunch of money, because my parents are very giving, and they probably would have given me anything I wanted. Yeah. So I'm almost blessed that I was put in this position. And, so yeah, through that, earned a a scholarship at a 4-year, played the rest of my basketball career at the college level. And then end of my senior year, I dislocated my ankle. And that's like what ended my basketball career. Was pretty freak accident, went up to dunk on someone, landed very awkwardly. And, just the trauma of that was a lot. It was like, my goal was to go play professionally back in New Zealand, Australia, in Europe, whatever that looked like. So mentally, there was a big shift in focus of being an athlete and pursuing my athletic endeavors, to then saying, all right, what is life for me now? It's like you have this goal and these aspirations of wanting to do something. And when your will gets turned upside down, it's I always say in life, it's not what you go through, it's what you overcome. And we all go through certain things in life that are going to really test us, and it's really like, how do you go through these things and overcome? And so this was a big test to me in life, and I look back at it and I'm like, you know what, things do happen for a reason. And that transitioned my career into then working with athletes in a different regard, as opposed to me being the athlete and the focal point. It's like, how do I take these skills that I developed in working with people and building relationships and just being a good person, to then helping other people in their career path, which is how that all developed.
Dude, I love that. Gosh, there's so many good things we could take out of that. I mean, first and foremost, you touch on this idea of essentially perspective, and like how that can ultimately shape your outlook on life. Like, there are certain things that happen to people, and you go through these experiences, these external factors, things in your life that you can't always control. And it can be really tough. But a lot of times in those moments, there's so much opportunity to grow, to learn, to impact, to be a light, even though things aren't going the way you want it to. And it's cool to see how those moments, with the right perspective, can end up shaping the person you are, but also put you further ahead than if you hadn't gone through that moment. Like, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Like, some of the places in your life where, they're like your injury, for example, we can use that as the example. Like, if you hadn't had that, I'm guessing your life would look a lot different than what it is now, just because those are things you don't have to deal with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like road bumps in life or anything you go through, it's how do you, as you mentioned, a lot of the time in the moment, you don't realize what this is teaching me or what I'm going to take away from this, because we obviously often emotionally wound to situations where you're going through things, you're driven by the emotion of it, and that can, lead to depression, whatever, stress. But taking a step back and really reflecting on what is this teaching me. And that's where I see like resilience and sticking with something and saying, you know what, I'm going to make the best out of whatever situation this might be. And I think, as someone that's always been driven through human optimization, a lot of putting myself in discomfort almost prepared me for a certain situation like this. As someone that loves the cold and, heat and cold exposure to just doing things that create discomfort. That's where you go through. So when something in life hits you and you don't necessarily know how to digest it, those situations of resiliency prepare you for a moment like this. And, maybe if I, for lack of a better word, was softer in the sense of I wasn't pushing myself and my barriers, maybe it would have been even harder to digest the situation of ending my basketball career that I worked, a decade plus to become who I was. But
Sure.
so it's putting yourself in a situation that's going to almost prepare you for the unknown.
I love that. And, something that's interesting about you, and I think, we hit it off the bat pretty easily when I first met you. Like our backgrounds are similar in the fact, kind of similar the way we grew up and playing basketball and having that be a big part of our life. And then making that transition from college sport to the business world, the working world, being around people. Like there's so many things you learn from sports and how you can apply them. And I think it's cool to see how you even touch on those kind of towards the end of you talking about your story. There's so much you can take from that. And it's cool to see how you've applied a lot of those principles to what you're doing now and how you're working.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much sport teaches you. And it's not just about being an athlete, it's all the things that come with that, the camaraderie, teamwork, communication, patience, resiliency. I mean, that's just to name a few things, but being an athlete teaches you so much about life. And, basketball's still such a big part of my life. When I reflect back on it, it opened the door for me to live in this, country of freedom. And if it wasn't for basketball and that driving factor, I mean, who knows? I could have still been in New Zealand, Australia with my family.
Sure.
Still living a great life, whatever. But it's like, this was a vehicle to excel me into other areas of my life, which now, as you know, I manage talent and work with athletes and help them achieve their goals and what they want to do in life. And a lot of the skills I learned being an athlete, I now try to pass on to other people and teach them, things like resiliency and sticking with things through dealing with adversity. So I think I was gifted with a lot of patience as a person. And my mom always said, you need to be a teacher of some sort, because, I naturally just have a lot of patience for people. And I always thought of it as like a school teacher, but in essence, what I'm doing now is still teaching. Teaching is very broad in how you can perceive it. So I am a teacher, but just of a different sort, being a mentor to Zion and others, as well as, teaching him through his sporting endeavors and in the gym, how to get stronger and become a better athlete. So it's when I think back, and I'm like, what, I am a teacher of a sort.
That's great. What was kind of the inception, the motivation to start what you're doing now to take on this route of being a manager, but also doing it in this unique way where, like you said, you're doing more than just business transactions with brands and athletes. Like you're actually making an impact on these people's lives. You're caring for them. You're more well-rounded in that regard. But what was kind of the motivation or inception to start this kind of life or career, what you're doing now?
I'll say a big part of it, like I'm very all or nothing. I'm very like fully committed to something, and I'm zero to 100. Like if I truly care about somebody and their well-being, I'm going to do whatever I has in my power to be able to help them. It's not just like, all right, I'm 9 to 5 and clock out and I'll do a few things for you. I fully invest myself into something or somebody, and that's with whatever I do. So when I have somebody's best interest in well-being, and when I want them to succeed, it's a matter of just going all in with it, and also realizing some of the skill set I have of connecting and networking and being a people person, and putting myself in a room to excel and help them in best way possible. And I look at Zion as a unique example because he inspires so many people. And I was like, look, if I can help this guy grow himself into a brand, it's just going to compound in how many people he inspires and helps. And, I help run his social, and I see the people that are suffering with depression, anxiety, suicidal, just lost their limbs. When they come across and send him a DM like, wow, you've changed my perspective on things, or, you've literally saved my life just by me coming across your page. It's an extremely fulfilling feeling to know the impact we're having on the world and people. And, truly knowing you can save people's lives just by living, the life you live.
Dude, that's so good. And I don't think, I think it's hard. I think it's hard for some people to understand that if they haven't truly experienced that moment. But the interaction you have with someone when you've sensed or verbally heard them say, like, you've made an impact on my life that, without you, things could have looked very differently. Like, even to some of the extremes that you mentioned there, like that is a fulfillment, a feeling, an emotion that there's no replacement. There's no equivalent feeling. Like that is in essence, like the best thing that could ever happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I seriously agree, man. It's like, yeah, there's nothing more powerful than literally saving somebody's life or them reaching out and knowing that you played a huge impact in their, mental well-being, physical well-being, whatever they may be. I mean, and obviously Zion has no excuses tattooed across his back, which he's significant on, his tagline or what people know him as. So just knowing I'm playing a part in that and in the world, through the lens of Zion as well as myself. So I always say, man, it's anything I do is not about impressing, it's about inspiring. And there's a big difference between the two, doing some cool things in the world or whatever I've accomplished. It's truly to inspire other people, not to impress people. I don't come from a place of need to stroke my ego, or it's to show people you can be whatever you want to be if you truly set your mind to it.
I love that, man. What was kind of the story of you and Zion meeting? Like, how did that come about? What's that that relationship look like?
So I initially started, my best friend was working with Jason Momoa at the time, and they were filming the Ellen DeGeneres episode the same day. And we had come across Zion on social media, me and my best friend, about 2 weeks before they're filming, and we're like, man, I'd love to meet this guy, and just we're so inspired by him doing box jumps and the resiliency and tenacity he had, and we're like, yeah, we're at a supplement company at the time, so we wanted to get him involved in the supplement company and work with him as well as everything. And then 2 weeks later, my best friend's calling me, freaking out in the back of the Ellen show, like, hey, Zion's here, Zion's here. He's like yelling on the phone. And Zion's freaking out because Jason Momoa was in the back with him. And, he came over for dinner that night with his mom, and we just all headed off and ended up working with him with a supplement company. And this was about 4 years ago. And then, that developed into like a close friendship and, also mentorship to him and just helping him make good decisions and excel as an athlete. And yeah, about a year ago, that developed into a full-time working relationship where I was like, man, I'm going to help Zion relocate to San Diego and the West Coast, where he's originally from Ohio, and just really, really like help him reach his potential as a human, which, he's still not nearly close to his potential, but just helping him achieve what he wants to do in life. My question to Zion is always, what do you want to do? And I'm going to help you, ways around you to monetize that and build that into who you are. So I always try to keep him or let him be his authentic self. So, the deepest thing I would say was a mentorship and friendship where I'm his go-to for anything that goes right or that goes wrong in his life. And it's a fulfilling feeling knowing I'm also having that impact on him that he's having on other people, and staying grounded in who I am. And, but I always try to stay authentic to myself and who I am at the same time. And I preach that to other people, but you also got to live by those words. So, that's how initially things started off. And now, we have a very close dynamic, and pretty much see him every day. We travel together, run all his social stuff, brand deals, nonprofit work. He's a keynote speaker, so build out his speaking brand as well, and inspiring a lot of people and children along the way.
That's amazing. Do you guys have like a distinct strategy of how you pursue business, like certain brands you want to work with or certain deals or, speaking engagements that you're going to align with, or is it kind of case by case? Like, how do you go? I'm sure like with the magnitude of his platform, with your experience in this space, like how do you guys navigate that world? Because I'm sure there's a lot going on and there's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, I would say the bigger he gets, it's always just looking at like opportunity cost. I try anything around kids and schools. We try to do as nonprofit work and separate that between like corporate speaking, for example, which is for profit. So that's one way we navigate in that space. But I always look at opportunity cost too. And, everybody has a very different bandwidth. So I might be able to work 60 hours a week, where Zion's very different in who he is, and being aware of his bandwidth being different to mine and being accountable for things like that. And that's learning to manage relationship and people. So that's something I constantly remind myself of. But I'll say the biggest thing is the authenticity factor of things. I don't ever want to be known, or he doesn't either, of endorsing something you don't believe in. And that's very important, having integrity and staying true to yourself, because especially consumers are a lot smarter these days, and you can smell BS from a mile away. So, hard salesy stuff also doesn't work for brands. So, I always view perspective of business. If everybody's happy, everybody's winning, that's good business to me. It's not about being one-sided and saying, well, we're getting paid monthly and we're happy. It's about ensuring that brand is winning, they're getting a good ROI, and they're happy with the relationship and dynamic, because word of mouth is also the most powerful thing to me in terms of spreading awareness. If you have a good reputation, that can spread very quick. The same way if you have a bad reputation, that can also travel very fast. So integrity to me is everything, man. It's who you truly are at the core, and you can't, it takes a long time to build that, and you can break that very quickly too.
That's good. I agree. I think that's also kind of the formula of longevity, and like how you can, produce and create a long-term success versus just gaining some momentum and cash grabbing and finding the right deals in the moment. But like how you deliver, how you carry yourself, the character, like you're saying, those are things that I think ultimately put you in the best position to make a long-lasting impact on the relationships, the partners, the kids, whoever you're dealing with. I think that's got to be the way you do it.
Exactly. And it takes longer to do things right. I've always said that, and I've always seen that in life. When you're truly doing something correctly, it might take a little bit longer than looking at, instant gratification. For example, the gym. People, there's no overnight success in the gym. If you want to build your ideal physique or become a better performer, and whatever that, may be, it takes longer to do. But society often kind of, people think there's that instant gratification of things. And I think there's power in having patience and knowing things will work out if you stick with something, and that idea of things compounding. That's why I look at health and well-being as a lifestyle. It's not about the hour you spend in the gym. It's about the rest of the time and how you spend your 23 hours outside of a gym.
100%. I'm sure there's no matter what you're doing in life, there's never just a pure linear path to the top. I'm sure there've been hurdles, things you've gone through, even in y'all's relationship from a business standpoint. What would you say has been one of the most difficult things to overcome or to learn or deal with that you've had to kind of embrace, or, personally between you guys as a manager? Like, take it however you want, but what are some things that you've had to kind of learn and overcome?
I would say one of the big one is, like, everybody's very unique and different in their thought process, to their behavior, to how they live. And, dealing with personality is a big one, because we're all wired in a very different way. So knowing, like, my weakness might be your strength and vice versa. So learning to accept people where they are, and not try portray them for something they're not, or, might think they're further along their path on who they are. So just taking people for who they are and where they are in their journey, and, realizing we all have different unique ways of doing things. So that's where the big part of where the patience kicks in, and understanding, we're not the same. No two people are the same. I'll say that's a big part of it. And then, knowing that for 10 no's is going to be a yes. So understanding that you're not for everybody. As me personally, and also the people I represent, I might think a brand has perfect alignment for one of my talent or clients I work with, but they don't view it from the same perspective, and understanding that that's okay. And, again, it's that, like, resiliency of, you're going to hear a lot of no's. I've been cut from sports teams growing up and told I wasn't good enough for this or that, but being resilient and building confidence, and knowing that there is something out there for you.
Sure. That's really good. And honestly, taking a step further, I'd love to pick your brain about another thing that I kind of you just made me think of. Like, I had the privilege of serving as a captain on my college basketball team my senior year. And I would have conversations with people, even outside of the team, of just like, what does it take to be a good leader? Like, what does that look like? What are some things you have to overcome that are going to be difficult that you have to honestly embrace? And I would, you're definitely in a leadership position on what you do as well. I think the big thing that I saw is like, you got to be able to foster and develop trust with the people you're leading. And I would love to hear your take on that and how you've been able to formulate trust throughout your relationships with your talent, with Zion, whoever, because I think that's a big key, especially honestly, I would take it a step further and say, even when business gets involved, like sports are one thing, sports are fun, they're serious, but when there's a dollar sign involved in the conversation, there's got to be even a deeper level of trust. How have you developed that? And like, what are some things that you've seen be successful in caring for others and developing trust?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line of like, being firm and stern about things, but also being caring in the other regards. So I think it's that fine line between not allowing people to do whatever they want when, something might be better, but still having care and compassion for people at the same time. I think the most powerful thing you can do with another human is connect to them on an emotional level. And, I always say that you can't fake real and authenticity. So, leading by example, it's often said, but I truly believe in leading by example. If you're living a life that's true to yourself and you're, people see that and people feed off that energy and way of doing things. So, but yeah, I think communication is a key component of things, really voicing how you feel, but also being aware that we're all wired very differently. We're different, your work ethic or your priorities are very different to what mine are. And being aware and just conscious that we are all unique individuals living this human experience. And, there's no right, there's many ways to skin a cat, and accepting people for where they are in life or where they are on their journey and what they want to prioritize. And, I think that's kind of how I found a way to connect to people. But I think a lot of it boils down to the I always relate back to that authenticity factor of putting out into the world what you want back. You can't ask, you can't manifest or ask for things when you aren't doing the work.
That's good. Wow, I really like that. I appreciate your take in your position there. You guys work super hard. You guys have done it in a really cool way where, again, I do believe and I agree that there's been a lot of authenticity and genuineness about how y'all approach your opportunities. And it's cool to see all the crazy things you guys have done. I'd love to hear a story or, maybe a fun experience, something that comes to mind. And I'm sure there's a lot, so it's probably a hard question to answer, but just a fun experience or story that you've got to experience throughout this process.
Yeah. Really cool experience. I'll say a really cool experience was, well, the last one was getting to meet Kevin Hart, which was, hanging out with Boss and Kevin Hart at his studio, which actually didn't expect to meet Kevin Hart. We were there to train with Boss. But another cool one was being on stage with a pretty big comedian. His name's Max, a comedian. He's a Persian comedian, really funny. And we met him backstage before his event, but then we sat with him on stage during his performance and witnessed it from like his lens and outlooking and seeing the crowd from the comedian's perspective and lens, and even, being a part of some of the humor and jokes with him on stage. So with a fairly big crowd too. So that was a pretty unique, special moment of being able to connect to him on a very personal level before he hopped on, and then being literally sitting on the stage in a chair right next to him while he performed with Zion. So, we both thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, we've done some cool things, and I always say everybody's human. We all, breathe the same. Nobody's on a pedestal. And I think that's a very important, trait to have, a quality to have, that you might be inspired by people, but we all human at the end of the day. We all, we all living this experience the same way. So don't look up to people in a positive light, but don't think anybody's better than you, or, it's something I definitely want to tell people is, don't, nobody's better than one another. We're all human. We all deserve the same respect and quality from people. That's another thing I've always been taught from a young age. And I've always, I want to instill in my kids too, is treat everybody the same. Treat the janitor like you do the CEO.
Mm.
And that's a very important, having humility and realizing nobody's worth more than anybody else. I don't care what your net worth says.
Yeah, dude, that's good. I mean, it's crazy to think, like in our society, in the current state of our society, like the amount of followers you have, the platform you have, like is a big indication of, I don't want to generalize, but how certain people would treat people. And it's like, if you've got a blue check by your name, or if you've got an M next to your follower count, it's like, wow, like you're famous. Like I'm scared to talk to, I'm nervous. And it's just funny to think of that. But I agree, man, it really does all boil down to just respecting and loving people, everyone, really.
Exactly. It's the humility and spreading love in the world. It's, strongest emotion you can have. So I think that's helped me carry through life, and I guess people kind of saying positive things or spreading positivity throughout me too. And that's more important to me is also like how people perceive me and making sure that I'm being that same energy that, I expect out of people.
For sure. Dude, I have to ask you while I've got you on this podcast. I saw when you guys got to meet Kevin Hart, that was like last week, right? Or
yeah,
it was recently, right? He so when Zion met him, he said, "Is this the first time you've actually had a chance to look down on somebody?" What was his response to that?
he kind of like smirked and laughed. It was almost like, he's like, "I'm the funny guy. Why are you trying to, say something funny to me?" Where it's like, he took it like lighthearted, but I think he didn't expect it. He was like, a comedian that makes fun of everybody else, who laughs at everybody else. It was pretty funny. I didn't expect Zion to pull that one out, but yeah, it was hilarious.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah, Boss is really cool too. We had him on the podcast a few months ago, and he's got a lot of energy. He's just a great presence, but he's another great guy.
No, he is. Yeah, we had a good time working out with him. He didn't take it lightly to Zion by any means. So he's very competitive natured, and he's like, I don't care who you are, I'm going to compete. So I love that race. What's that? Oh yeah. Well, I've got more footage of Zion also beating him at some things too. So we'll be posting our perspective of things as well.
I can't wait to see that, man. I'm excited. What yeah, man, I'm interested. I love when I talk to people who've got ambitious mindsets, they're very strong-willed in pushing themselves, pushing their limits, helping people, working hard. Like there's always fun places that we can improve. Like where are some places in your personal life, in your career, and what you do on a day-to-day that you think, you can improve on and make even stronger strengths?
Yeah. I'd say one of them maybe is finding time for myself. Balance is so important in life, especially for longevity and not wearing yourself out. I often forget that I'm working because I love what I do. And it's like, I often catch myself like up 11, 12 at night on my computer, still working or still doing something or brainstorming, my creative mind's thinking. And I'm there like working, doing things like that. So I think reminding myself, at least personally to me, is make time for yourself and balance things out, and making sure like I have a social life, and when I am invited to do things with friends, that I prioritize that over work life. But it's like I'm so driven by building something that it often overtakes other opportunity or things in my life. So for anyone entrepreneur minded or just driven or disciplined, and they see what they want to achieve and they're on that path, is make time for yourself.
Dude, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because honestly, that was something I was curious about. Is, as we kind of dive into this topic of serving others, making an impact, helping people chase their dreams while you're also benefiting and you're doing a lot of cool stuff personally. But like, where is that fine line? How do you get that balance? Like, because I don't know. I mean, I look at the stuff you guys are doing and I'm like, man, this dude Craig is all over the place. He's constantly doing things and helping Zion and his other athletes and his like everything. And so it's like, it's interesting to hear you talk about that as being an area of an improvement, because that's got to be something that a lot of people probably deal with, but it's something sometimes hard to fully embrace and give yourself the time, knowing that there's other things that can be done. It's got to be a very intentional decision, I feel like.
It is, because like, especially that go mentality, and when you're picking up momentum and things are like moving in a positive direction and things are flowing, it's tough to like, and that's where perspective is so important, to take a step back and reflect from a different angle and be like, look, we're moving 1,000 miles an hour and we're making whatever progress and striving for things, but you got to reflect on things, and also enjoying the moment, I think, is a huge part of that too, of, life is about, the journey and not the destination. I mean, I have a tattooed on the inside of my arm. It says, enjoy the journey. And it's a constant reminder to me that, it's enjoying every moment, enjoying the highs and lows, enjoying that process of things, because that's what makes it fulfilling, is that process. It's not about, it's not about the end result. It's like, I think as a society, we often get caught up in like, all right, I'm doing this for next year. It's like, no, how about you do things for now, for the moment as well?
That's good. It's tough, man. That's really tough. And especially just the landscape of our world, and people constantly just like, you put your life, a lot of people put their life out on social media, and you get to, it can be a good thing. It can be a very healthy thing. It can be an inspiration, like in y'all's case with Zion and stuff. But there also is another world where it's like, becomes very competitive, and you're looking at other people and you're comparing and you're thinking, okay, well, they're here, so I need to do this. And I think sometimes people lose sight in it. And I say some people, I'm talking about myself too. Like, I catch myself losing sight of what I was supposed to accomplish today, and how I can find balance and being super ambitious and chasing my dreams and trying to build something special, but also, like you're saying, enjoying that process, like that moment I'm in the, this current time, this conversation with you. Like, I want to enjoy this moment with you. And I think that's something that you have to consciously remind yourself. And I think that's why talking about it is super, super powerful as well.
It is, for sure. I think a lot of things we've got to remind ourselves on, when you speak it to an existence, it also helps you remember those things as like reminders to implement into your life. I think like anything, it takes constant reminding. We're very like habitual creatures, where once we have our way of doing things, it's hard to break that habit. But when you constantly reinforce, like, all right, I need to make more time for whatever it is, I want to read more, and you constantly remind yourself of that and speak it to an existence, and then that's the way of implementing that change into your lifestyle. Because we're naturally just very habitual in our way of doing things and our structure and schedule.
For sure. That's good, man. Dude, this has been an incredible episode. You're a legend, and I'm just super grateful for your heart posture to just come and talk about some of these things and share your story, and honestly just provide a ton of value. My kind of final question, wrapping this up, and I love asking people, questions along this line, like, if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners about something that you've learned throughout any point in your career, whether it be athletically, professionally, whatever that looks like, that's all honest, made a big impact and a big change for the better in your life, what would that be?
I'd say it's trust the process. It's something I teach people, but I also remind myself and continue to live by, is, as I say, we often get emotionally wound in things, and during the moment we might not see, or things might not be going our way, and we reflect on it in an emotional way that gets us charged in a certain means. And truly trusting the process, knowing that things do take time, and you might not, or taking a perspective shift and really like take a step back from things. And we don't often see our progress until we reflect back on it and see that journey and path we've taken to success. So really trust the process and know that there's going to be highs and lows and ups and downs, and to just roll with the punches and waves of life, and knowing that if you're resilient and you stick with it and you truly have a goal of achieving something, that you can do it. It's it's not going to be easy, but consistency and having work ethic and being open-minded and willing to learn from others.
So good. I love that, bro. I really appreciate it. This has been fun. I'm 100% coming to work out with you guys this summer. We got to line something up, bro.
Yeah, I've got it, dude. I've got extra place in my space, in my spot. You're more than welcome to come anytime.
Let's go.
San Diego summer, or kick it, get a workout, whatever.
I'd love to, brother. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. You're a legend, and I'm very grateful for you, man.
No, likewise, man. As I said, love telling my story and just making an impact. So all about it.
Let's go.